All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Scoreboard. Cody and I are here today with a pretty awesome guest. I'm actually going to let her introduce herself. No words here. Sarah, you want to give us a little bit about who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Sarah. I am a former Division I hockey player. I grew up in Ottawa, Ontario, and played youth hockey, girls hockey there my whole youth career, and was incredibly fortunate to play in one of the best markets in Canada, I think. So, it pushed me very hard. I had the opportunity to play for the U18 national team, which was really cool, and get to go to a world championship. And this all led me to play NCAA hockey in the United States, where I played 4 years at Syracuse University, and then took my 5th year, transferred to St. Lawrence University, finished off my career, incredible career, and now I'm working for 3G Sports. I'm so working to represent PWHL athletes, and I'm also a founder of a nonprofit called Sticks Together. So I'm sure we'll dive into all of that, but yeah, that's a little bit about me.
We will absolutely get into all of that. There's so much to unpack there, and I think so many different aspects of you, your sports career, your career, and your nonprofit that we'll pull on all the threads. So thanks for joining us this morning.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Absolutely. Well, let's start at the start, I guess. So you mentioned you grew up playing hockey in Ottawa. I played hockey probably 20 years before you, and it was a very different environment back then. Granted, I grew up in Florida, but there were 3 girls hockey teams. Over the last 2-3 decades, I feel like the landscape has changed dramatically. And I'm sure you've even seen the same thing since you've been coming up through the ranks. So one question that I'm curious about is, what have you seen change in girls and women's hockey and in collegiate sports in general kind of over your time?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a ton has changed. And I get the front seat view of all this working with young athletes now, like girls that are going through the same recruitment process I went through, almost a decade ago. So seeing how much has changed in just a decade, it's wild. Growing up in Ottawa, I did have a really great, opportunity to play girls hockey. I know there's a lot of other girls my age that never had that opportunity to play girls. They played boys almost the whole way up just to stay competitive, and then, would travel or billet somewhere to be able to play girls hockey and compete and have scouts see who they were playing girls hockey, right? So I was really lucky and fortunate that I was in a very competitive market. But since then, things have changed dramatically. I know, I was one of few at a young age of 14, 15 that started doing off-ice training, and I was going the extra mile and doing all these little things that really set me apart, and I think was the reason that I was able to make the national team. But all that stuff now is not the extra mile. That's the standard. The kids that are, I tell them, you got to go the extra mile. And then they tell me all the stuff they're doing. And I'm like, well, your team's got you doing all of it. I don't know where you have time to go the extra mile, right? So I think it's great to see girls hockey evolving. There's a much bigger commitment, but at the same time, they're putting so much more into girls hockey, which is really exciting. And the girls are taking all the right steps with strength training and nutrition and sports psychologists and all these things that I did to go above and beyond. Things have certainly changed a lot. College hockey is getting a lot more competitive. It's exciting to watch. It's really exciting to watch. And now with the PWHL, I think things are going to take a whole new level up. My decision to where I wanted to go in college was really just about my education and my experience. I didn't think about pro hockey after and how playing at one school might affect my chances at that. So there's a lot that's going to go into it, a lot that changes, but I think it's a really exciting time for women's sports for sure.
Yeah. So you mentioned that your education piece was a big decision-making factor. And so you went to Syracuse, and you mentioned as well St. Lawrence. With the landscape now being much more competitive, like you mentioned, that the team and the prospects for PWHL and that professional next step are probably taking up a large majority of that decision-making now, right? What are the benefits and drawbacks of that? Between the balance of this, I want to play elite sports, but I also want to make sure that I'm getting an education that's going to set me up for afterwards.
Yeah, it's a tough question that I think a lot of coaches are now having to answer. They're having to battle with it. I think it's going to create more of a disparity between the top programs and the bottom. I think before, some of the less competitive teams, if they had a great school or a great program they offered, great campus, anything, good culture, all of that was selling points, right, as to why you would want to go there. But now for most of these kids, like the thing at the top of their mind is I want to play pro, right? And it's not I want to get an education. I went to Syracuse University. Absolutely loved my time there. One of the primary reasons I went there was because of the sport management program. Like there's very few of those nationwide, and I think there was only a handful of colleges that had women's hockey programs at the Division I level that also had a sport management major. So that heavily influenced why I went to Syracuse University, right? And kids are not going to see that anymore as valuable. They're going to look at where am I going to go pro? Which programs put the most kids pro? Can I just find a way to get on that roster? And I think a lot of times not thinking about opportunity, playing time, commitment to your development, right? There's some top programs that are heavily recruiting and will recruit over you. Even if you've already committed there, they want to stay competitive. They are not as invested in your development as maybe some other programs, right? They are the best of the best. They're going to win. A lot of them don't care that much about each individual player in their own development. So there's a lot that goes into it, and I've learned a lot playing for two different programs, and what I see is super valuable for young athletes. And that's where when I do my advising for young girls at home, like that's really important to me that I educate them on all this stuff, because for them, when the recruitment time hits and that they hit the date of June 15th and coaches can start calling them, it's a mess. It's chaos, right? And they don't know how to handle it. So a lot of times my job is to help them prepare for that opportunity, because there's a lot that weighs into a decision that you can make at 16 years old for 4 very important years of your life.
There was something, Sarah, that you said. So I caught an interview you gave on ESPN earlier this week when you were back at St. Lawrence, and there was something that stood out to me as a dad of a hockey girl who's just getting into hockey, right? Like we're not, the thought of like recruitment and all that stuff is like so far from what our reality is right now. But the thing that resonated with me was, I mean, you were talking about your nonprofit and you talked about the joy that you found in just playing hockey. Do you still see that there, as this sort of seems like now the business models are taking over, right? They've been outside of particularly the women's sports ecosystem. And now because there's professional leagues and there's now these pipelines of development of all the things that you said were like the extra mile, are just like the status quo now. How do we make sure that the joy's still there? And like, are you still seeing that as a part of the game for, especially for the kids that you work with?
Yeah, I think it's a tough balance, right? And I think a lot of times it depends on the player, right? I mean, that's with anything, but I think it's a lot easier for these girls to be a lot harder on themselves with the amount of pressure they're now under. And having good role models, I think, is really important. And like the camps that I run back at home, it's really important to me that it's a female staff that runs it, and it's people that have been through it and can, shed light on our experience. And a lot of what we talk about is not just this is what you have to do to get to the next level. It's like real life stuff of like, have balance. That's important. Take care of your mental health. That's important. Like sharing stories if you've been through an injury, how to get through that. Like, I think there's just so much emphasis from the hockey community, their parents, just everyone putting pressure on them to like, this is what you got to do and everything's got to go right for you to get to the next level. And if these kids take it too seriously, it can really be damaging in the ways that they view hockey, and it doesn't become fun anymore. And for some of the kids that I work with, I have to ask that question all the time, like, are you having fun? And for those that are very hard on themselves, like I was an athlete that was very self-critical of my game. I got to college and it was a bit of a wake-up call for me that I needed to find other things in my life that brought me happiness and validation, because I had no balance, didn't know what balance looked like. If someone asked me what I like to do outside of hockey, I would tell you nothing. And that became a problem when I got to college, and I wasn't going to be a absolute superstar, even if I put in a lot of work. Like that's not always going to be the reality. And like I continued to work hard, but it was important for me to find other things that created balance. Otherwise, if you put too much of your time and energy into just one thing and it's not going exactly how you would like it to go, then it can be very dangerous, right? So for me, it was very much finding balance. And in this time and age, there are not many people in this competitive hockey world that are talking to the girls about balance. It's just, this is what you got to do to get to the next level, and you have to do more, and not actually checking in on these athletes and making sure they're having fun and they're happy, because that's obviously the most important thing. And you don't want these kids to burn out before they even get to the point where they can achieve their goals, right? So I think it's an important time that we continue to emphasize joy and just being happy playing the game. Otherwise, it's not going to take you that far.
What were those things that you did to find the balance as a student athlete, as you transitioned into professional life? Like, what were those things that you did for the, the 15-year-old that's listening to us right now?
Yeah, I think my teammates helped me a bunch. Like when I got to college and I saw that they had a life outside of hockey, I went to Syracuse University. There were some fun parties there. All the girls would go for ice cream and we go to Target and we go to the mall. And like I saw these role models, like to me, like the seniors that I was a freshman, and watching these older girls like not act like robots and have a life. And to me, I was like, wow, like they are really successful, happy people and great athletes. And they're one of the best players on the team. And they do this stuff. And it kind of helped, like enabled me to like be able to do that stuff as well. And I still remember the first time I was like, yeah, maybe I'll go for ice cream with them. Like I genuinely remember that moment, because before then it was like, no, I can't have ice cream. Like I gotta practice tomorrow and I gotta eat healthy. And so they really broke me out of my shell. And I think I like really leaned on them to help me build balance. And that's why I think all the time Syracuse was a great place for me to be, because the hockey had its ups and its downs, but there was so much outside of hockey that Syracuse University brought to my life that I don't think would make, like if I'd went anywhere else, I don't know if I'd be the same person. And I might have still been that same hockey robot that walked in onto campus at 18 years old. So a lot has changed since then, for sure. And I think finding little things like going for walks, getting ice cream, shopping, like finding other passions was really important for the person that I am today.
So with all of that, right, the importance of balance, you also managed to start a nonprofit, which is a pretty hefty lift.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think, interestingly enough, the conversation of NIL is what really sparked all of this, which is very ironic because obviously don't monetize anything from Sticks Together. But I think Syracuse University was obviously big on the conversation of NIL. I was in sport management, like it was brand new, it was flashy. Everyone wanted to learn about it. And my professors that talked about it did it in a very interesting way, where they talked about like not just this is how you make money. It was like, how do athletes want to be known? Like, what do you want to be known for? What do you want to be associated with? And even though I wasn't like making t-shirts or partnering with brands, like to me, that was a conversation that I started in my head of like, what do I want to be known for? And like, how can I build something separate from, my identity as a hockey player that really matters to me? So that's what kind of like birthed the idea of Sticks Together. And then, I thought, okay, I want to give back. It would be really cool if I did something hockey related. I'd always wanted to travel and volunteer. And I thought, how can we blend all this? So my first trip to Argentina was really just like a friend of mine. We just signed up for the trip and was like, we're going to fundraise and we're going to collect hockey sticks and we're going to go down there and we're just going to see how it goes. We're just going to play hockey and see what happens. So, but obviously since then, like there's been a lot more structure to it and it's become something a lot bigger that we're talking about at a much larger scale. And we've created so much more impact since then. But really at the beginning, it was just, I want to give back. Hockey's the easiest way to do that because that's the thing I know best. And I knew that my friends and family would get behind this. And I have so many people in the hockey community that would get behind this that it just felt like the easiest way that I could make impact that really matters to me and that I think will be lasting and something that I'll want to continue to do.
Yeah. So you created it while you were in school, right? And it's something that you mentioned you're still building, it's still growing, it's still having an impact. We've talked to so many student athletes, and I think even you brought up earlier, like there's the identity that's wrapped in the sport. And then the question is like, well, who else am I over here?
Mm-hmm.
Did having Sticks Together sort of as that thread, as that through line, was that helpful in your transition out of school? Because you're like, oh, I still know who I am. I still have this other piece of myself that I've developed along the way.
Absolutely. Like 1,000%. I think when I was in high school, I was like one of the best in the country. I went to the World Championship with Team Canada. Like had very ambitious goals. And I think when I went to Syracuse as a freshman, it was the first time that I'd faced some roadblocks, right? There's bigger players, they're faster, they're more skilled. And I really battled with it for a long time of like, am I going to be able to like achieve all these things that I'd wanted to? Like, am I going to play for the U22 national team? Am I going to go to the Olympics? And like, I quickly realized that I think a lot of the things that I was doing in high school, I went above and beyond. Like I put in everything. And it just got to a point where I was like, I don't even know if I can continue to maintain this level of commitment where I don't have anything else in my life, right? So it sparked that conversation of like, what else would really matter to me, and like what else would really make me happy, and that was this, right? Building something that I was really proud of. And my last year at St. Lawrence, when I won the Hockey Humanitarian Award, I told my coaches and my teammates at St. Lawrence, like, that was the best part of my career. Like, that is the thing I am most proud of. Like, it's not the points, it's not all that stuff. Like, that was something that I was super proud of, that I put so much time and energy into, and it brought a lot of like self like validation. Like, I felt really proud of myself for doing that, and it kind of just continued to propel me forward. And my teammates were so supportive of it, and my coaches. So I think for me, it certainly was like a source of validation, and like something that really brought me joy, and created these opportunities outside of hockey for me to learn, and just something else in general to be really passionate about, which I think has definitely helped with this transition. If you had taken away hockey from me when I was 18 years old, like, I would not know where to go, like, period. So I think now I have a much better idea of who I am outside of hockey, and that's been really helpful during this transition.
Real quick, Sarah, what was the timeline? So Argentina was freshman year, sophomore year? When
That was after my sophomore year. After my junior year, I went to South Africa. After my senior year, I went to the Philippines. And then this past summer, after my graduate year, we went to Kenya.
So that notion of like balance, you went from the kid who stepped on campus at Syracuse, seeing some of your older teammates and realizing it's okay to be something other than just a hockey player.
Yeah.
The transition to starting a nonprofit and be, and leading this thing, that happened pretty quick. That's 2 years.
Yeah, it did. I think I just kind of had an idea and I really ran with it. And like, I think Syracuse was the best place to be for that, because there were so many resources. Like, the athletic department was great. I was in sport management. Like, I just had so many people that I could tap into that would be really helpful and would not like shut down this big vision. Like, they were just like, yeah, run with it, right? And it propelled me forward. And I think like we're at a place today where I just like cannot believe I started it 4 years ago. Like, it really was just an idea then, and like it was really just a project. Even my first 2 years, it was kind of a project. And then after my second year, I was kind of like, okay, now I got to think about, can I make this more impactful? Can I bring more people on the trip? Can we do more? Can we donate more? Right? So for a long time, it was just kind of a project. And, for anyone that's like thinking about, oh my God, how did she get here from then? Like, it's been 4 years. So like, it's been 4 years that I've taken the time to like learn. And it didn't just pop out of nowhere. It certainly was something. It was just a baby project at one point, and a trip where I just said, I'm going to put myself out there and I'm just going to show up to Argentina and see what happens. And now obviously we're in a much better place with everything, where there's a lot more structure, and I think I have a much better idea of how we're going to make long-lasting impact.
And I want to make sure we're highlighting, like, this isn't just like a trip. Like, you're bringing teammates along for the ride, right? Like, you've built up a base of people. You've got financial sponsors as well, so you've built out the infrastructure. This isn't a small thing you did. And I think what's been so impressive to like understand, and as we've had conversations with other athletes, this piece of transition is that we're talking with so many people, Sarah, who were former athletes that have applied that work ethic and applied that, just the steamrolling, right? Like, I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to work just as hard as I did on the ice, on the field, on the court at this thing. So going back to that notion of balance, how did you actually balance all of that? Because that's like, you had school, you had a hockey career, and then you had this nonprofit. What were some secrets? Let us in on how you did all this. Because I'm 46 and I want to do all that.
Well, I think the most important thing was for me to realize that I can't steamroll in every aspect of my life. I guess you could say, like, I realized that I cannot give my absolute all to every area of my life, and I have to be willing to bend a little bit. And that's where, like, with my hockey career, like, when I was 17 years old, like, I was putting everything into that, right? And I realized that when I went to the World Championship, I remember thinking, like, okay, I'm here now. I'm literally wearing the Team Canada jersey. Like, I have everything I ever wanted, and I'm, like, not that happy. Like, it wasn't like my life had been transformed, and that's when I realized it was more, like, about the journey getting there, and that maybe I, missed out on a few things that I think would have made me happiest. So, I think it was coming to that realization that I can still work very hard in hockey and make time for other things. And then it was just time management, really. Like, I think that was important, like knowing what your priorities are. Time management was huge. I've always been naturally pretty good at that. And like with school, I was usually pretty good at just getting my stuff done quickly and ahead of time and not procrastinating and letting things get away from me. Getting things done ahead of time. And then, I mean, I remember being in class all the time, and I hope my professors don't hear this, but would spend most of the time like doing sticks together stuff like on my computer, like during class, because I knew like I was prepared to take that test and I was going to nail it. Like I felt confident. So it was definitely just getting some stuff done, maybe when I shouldn't have been doing it. More doing my homework in class when I should have been paying attention. But yeah, you just kind of have to make it work and you have to be committed to it. And I think like taking a break is important as well. But it's funny because I used to tell people like I would schedule in my break times. Like I would schedule in like TV time from 8 to 10 and then know that I can't, dilly daddle the rest of the day and just push things off, right? I knew like 8 to 10, I'm going to have my me time. So I got to grind up until then and I got to get my stuff done so that I can have that time to myself. So I was very big on scheduling, very big on making sure each like area of my life was getting the attention it needed. But that's something I learned kind of along the way. It didn't just kind of come out of nowhere.
Yeah, I think we can all probably take a page or two from your book and do a little bit better on that. How has it been? So now that you're out of college, right, you are still obviously leading Sticks Together and you also have another professional role with 3G. How is that? How are you finding that transition? And just like tell us a little bit about what you're doing and learning there also.
I think a lot of people ask me this question and, they're like, how are you doing? Are you having an identity crisis? Like, are you okay? Because I mean, it's normal. Like every student athlete that like retires goes through a little bit of like that, oh my God, who am I? I think I'd done so much preparation with this. Like I talked to like my coaching staff about it. I talked to my teammates about it. And fortunately, my role happens to be like in hockey and like working with PWHL athletes that I feel very much in that world, in that space still. So I don't really have a void that needs to be filled. I think if my dream was to be like a doctor or a dentist or something, like I think I would maybe feel a little bit different because I would just be really stepping away from that area of my life. But I feel really fortunate to still be very much involved and like working with a great company, like where we're like a small staff and I feel like super invested in helping build, what we're doing. And yeah, so I think the transition went pretty seamlessly for me, which I don't think is the norm, but I think it's something that I certainly talked about a ton with my mom and with my coaches because it's something that can just kind of slap you in the face when the season's over, especially if you're not prepared to be retiring. Like I kind of knew my whole last year that it was kind of like my victory lap. Like I was prepared for that and I was like working as an intern for an agency. So I was like really excited about life after. But I think if you don't, like I said before, like if you don't have that balance and if you don't have other things that excite you, it can be really challenging when you're forced to kind of give something up and think what's next. So I think that conversation of balance should be had more, I think, by coaching staffs and like check-ins maybe with grad students or your seniors so that they know what's next and they can start thinking about it earlier so it doesn't just, hit you like a ton of bricks when you graduate and you're left with no path forward. So
with the PWHL players that you mentioned you're working with, that league, so I believe this is season 3, right, of the league. I live in the South, so I get none of the organic exposure to it. I'm just following it all from afar. Yeah. But it's doing incredibly, right? There's 2 new expansion teams coming up this season. There's talk of potentially like 4 more over the next couple of seasons.
Yeah.
What are you hearing and seeing from the players about it, about the momentum, about just how it's exploding right now?
Yeah, I think there's a ton of excitement around it. And I think there's going to be so much more momentum after the Olympics too, right? Like the Olympics have been the most exciting time, every 4 years for women's hockey fans before there was a PWHL. So I can't even imagine the explosion after Olympics when we've got a league and now we've got the Olympics, which is the most exciting time. And we're going to see, PWHL fans that maybe have recently tuned into women's hockey because of the PWHL now see their favorite players playing together for Team Canada or the Team USA or in Europe. So I think it's going to be a really exciting time for women's hockey. This year is going to be super special. And I think once there's more teams, once we continue to expand, and you're going to get to see more little girls go to games and have somebody to look up to. That to me is so incredible. And I think about one of our clients, Jen Gardner, she's getting to go home and play for Vancouver. And I can't even imagine how special that would be, especially considering it wasn't one of the original teams. For that to be announced, Vancouver's getting a team, and for her to be one of the foundational signings to go back there is incredible. And she just has such a following there. All the little girls all know who she is, and I can't imagine that feeling for her, and then how special that is for all those little girls that go to her camp and then get to see her in a sold out arena. To me, that's just so inspiring. And I really hope that I have a daughter one day and I can bring her to those games, and she can tell me her favorite player is Sarah Fillier or Jen Gardner or whoever it is, rather than Sidney Crosby. That was mine. So it's a special time for women's hockey, and I can't even imagine where it's going to be when those 8-year-old girls are now at that age. It's just, I think things are going to grow exponentially.
I'll tell you a quick little personal story, Sarah. So I have a 9-year-old daughter. I mean, she went through this. So
yeah,
we did learn to skate, and this is the probably pretty indicative of the moment that we're in. The learn to skate was the Bruins learn to skate. But it was the Boston Fleet players who actually went.
That's awesome.
So my daughter got to skate with so many of the players and their signing sticks and all this stuff. But it was the first time that my daughter, she didn't realize that there was women's professional hockey.
Yeah.
And so for her, because I was coaching at BC, she was like, do they play for BC? What school are they? She didn't understand it.
Yeah.
But then to go to a game and her be like, oh my God, this is, those are all women on the ice. I mean, she said girls, but women on the ice.
Yeah.
And so those moments, I think, are just happening at such a scale now that I honestly don't think we yet realize what you're saying, those downstream impacts are going to be.
Absolutely.
10, 15 years from now, when these little girls who are now seeing this for the first time feel a whole different sense of empowerment and identity and worth and value because of the work that's going on right now. And obviously that work has gone on decades before, but I didn't have a 9-year-old daughter decades before. So
yeah, no, it's an exciting time to be a part of it. I went to a game. I should have went to a game much earlier than I actually did, but being a student athlete, the time didn't really align. But when my season ended last year, because St. Lawrence was so close, and we had some friends playing in the league, we would carpool 6 of us in a car and head down to Ottawa, because it was only an hour and a half from St. Lawrence, to watch the game. So it was really cool to be there. And it's just such a different experience than going to an NHL game. I grew up going to NHL games. It's a totally different demographic. The people that are at the game are entirely different. I can't remember who had said this, but somebody that was involved in the PWHL was it's a dance party. The fans are just so invested in it. Everyone's really excited to be there. And don't get me wrong, I love going to NHL games and stuff, but there's a different demographic. There's a lot of corporate people there, and it's just it was all young girls and even young boys, and it was elderly couples, and they all got the jersey on, and I was wow, I remember sitting there with my sister, and she was a hockey player as well. She didn't play at the Division I level. She stopped playing when she was 16, and she hadn't been to a game, and she obviously doesn't follow it as much as I do. And she looked at me and she was like, this is amazing. She's like, I'm getting chills right now. She's like, I can't even, she's like, Sarah, imagine we went when we were younger. Imagine mom took us when we were younger. And for me, I obviously so heavily involved with the PWHL. I knew what was going on. I knew this type of impact. I knew how cool the games were. But to see her be God, we should come to these more often. It was so cool to me, because it was the type of reaction that I think so many people would get if they go to a game and just haven't followed along much, but are wow, this is fast, and like everyone's having fun, and like it's such a different atmosphere, I think, than hockey fans are used to. And I think it's like really special, and I'm hoping that fans continue to show out. I think in Vancouver and Seattle it's going to be just nuts. Like I think
What's
I want to say they've already like sold out like quickly, like their first game. Like
mm-hmm.
it's going to be incredible. So I'm counting down the days to start watching. I'll be at every Montreal Victoire game. So yeah, I'm really pumped for the season to start.
Yeah, that sense of like community at the games are tremendous. But I'd argue that like I felt that at um almost every women's sports event I've been to. Or it's, Athlos. I was at Athlos track in New York, and it was the same thing. It literally was a dance. They had a DJ, right? So it was like
Yeah.
it was fun. Yes, it's the best track athletes in the world, and that was amazing. But I think the thing that's been, as a fan, that's been the experience has been so different for me is there's not the visceral nature of fandom that
Yeah.
happens in men's sports, where it's just like, I don't know. I don't bring my kids. I'm in Boston, so I don't bring my kids to Pats games because it
Yeah.
a couple beers in, like
Yeah.
I got to do some explaining about stuff that I don't want to have to explain.
Absolutely.
And so it's not that type of environment where like you want to even go.
Yeah.
And so I think like that's also the opportunity. I think that is with us right now is that there's this you can get in at the ground level, and that sense of community. I think that's the part that can grow, that can be such an impactful part of the business side of things. Is you're building deeper engagement with these fans because it's not that there's not that visceral nature. There's a support that's almost like inherent in the DNA of these things that isn't necessarily there in the men's game.
Yeah, for sure. I think we've, as an agency, like we've done, I think, a really great job at helping the girls like get into the communities too. And like a bunch of our clients like ran their own camps that like sold out at an incredible rate. And it's just like it's exciting to see. Like I think it's only going to get so much bigger, and I'm really excited for the next expansion too, to see like what markets it's in. I have my own guesses, but I'm really excited to see where the next teams are going to be. And I think it's important to take that step with expansion. I think it's tough with when expansion happens because some fan favorites might be taken to another market, and fans are sad to see their favorite players go. But I think it is going to be so crucial to the growth of the game across, Canada and the US, and also into Europe, right? Like there's so many Europeans now playing in the league too. So I think it's only going to continue to grow. And I think the PWHL has done a really great job at scaling at the right time and like in putting in the right type of work. And yeah, it's just like it's an exciting time for me to be a part of it. I couldn't have happened at a better time that this is all going on right when I graduated. Otherwise, I don't know where I'd be. So yeah, it's exciting, and I'm really excited to be at a ton of games for sure.
So you've got this incredible season about to start. With all of that going on, what's in store for Sticks Together in this next year or two?
So we have some exciting plans. I did just announce the other week that I am sponsoring the Kenya women's and girls ice hockey program, which is super exciting. And they now have their own like dedicated ice time to them to practice and to develop, which was really important to me. I always grew up playing girls hockey. Like I was very fortunate, and that was really exciting to me. So it's amazing to see that, happen in Kenya now. So I'm helping I am sponsoring that ice time, and then also just helping with their transportation as well, because a lot of them are coming in from different slums and neighborhoods. And it's certainly no easy trek to get into Nairobi to the rink. So helping pay for that as well. And our goal is just to continue to fundraise and to help support that program financially and help create more opportunity on the ice, but also off the ice. I think education is really important, and what they're doing with the ice lines. They're obviously developing them on the ice, but then providing resources for them like books and tutors and things like that, so that there's opportunity for them off the ice, right? And I know that, some of the girls their schools are getting paid for and things like that. So for me, it's really important to continue to invest into that. And we're planning a trip for July. The details are TBD for now, but we're planning to go back to Kenya in July and hopefully get on the ice with them as much as possible, whether that's in like a tournament style or like clinics. We haven't banged out those details just yet, but I think it's going to be really exciting. And we're planning to take a pretty big group of girls and women down there to be a part of it. And I think the more eyes that we can get on what I'm doing with Six Together, the more impact that we can make. Because I think the hockey community has been amazing and has really like gotten behind what I'm doing. So just the more people we can reach, the more support that we're going to be able to give to all these different communities and grassroots level programs.
I love it. I feel like there might be a documentary in that at some point.
That's the
Kinda
goal. That's
Yeah.
the goal. Where I mean, I'd already kind of thought about that idea for our next trip and having somebody come down.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know the Kenya Ice Lions are not new to that either. They've been a part of some like documentary style videos. They were part of that Tim Hortons commercial a couple years ago that was really cool. So I think they would absolutely get behind this, and I think that
That'd be
would
awesome.
help grow the game in Africa. Obviously, like there's very few hockey programs there. I've been witness to 2 of them, which are probably 2 of the only ones. So it's a pretty cool time, and we're excited to see where everything goes.
Amazing. Well, before we wrap up, is there anything we did not ask that you wish we had asked, or anything else you want to share?
I think just stay tuned with Six Together. I'm really excited to see where things go. If anyone's listening and has ideas, like please reach out, connect with me. I'm no stranger to wanting to build relationships and just meet people with great ideas. So yeah, I'm excited to see where everything goes with Six Together. And for little girls and hockey players that are listening, just keep following your dreams. Go to PWHL games, meet these girls. I think that can really motivate you and inspire you and see where it can take you. And then even just for those that are already really into it, that are 15, 16, like going through the recruitment process and all that, like don't be afraid to reach out to these girls as well. Like, I mean, I'm surrounded by them all the time. They're phenomenal role models, and like they are so giving. Like they're so happy to give back and to mentor. Reach out. I'm sure there's ways that you can get in touch with these girls. And yeah, don't be afraid. Get out of your comfort zone and find people that you can lean on, because there's so many people like me and like those girls in the PWHL that are very willing to chat with you and hopefully inspire you.
Amazing. Well, you've been an inspiration too. I think a lot of people listening to this are going to get really jazzed about what you have done and are doing,
Thank
and
you.
hopefully continue supporting your work.
Thank you. Yeah, that would be amazing.
Thank you so much for being here with us today, Sarah.
Thank you. This has been awesome. I love chatting about this, so I appreciate you inviting me on.
Amazing. We appreciate it too. All right. Have a good day, everybody, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, Sarah.
No problem. Thank you, guys.